Hey Dr. Siegel, this is Lorey Summers, and I'm coming to you with my assessment video. I wanted to tell you how I came up with my idea for my assessment. When I was maybe 2 years into my teaching career, which was 13, 14 years ago now, I went to an in-service where I was taught about something called book talks. The instructors would assign so many books, whatever the kids wanted to read, over the school year, and every, either 6 weeks or every semester, every quarter, whichever it was, they would have to check in with the teacher and do an actual book talk. The child would bring the book, they would talk about the book, and as long as the child had read it to the teacher's satisfaction, the child would get his 100 and move on to the next book. Well, I did it for the first 2 years after I'd learned about it. I was a lot younger then and had a lot more energy and made it a lot easier of a project. But last year, I noticed that my students were not reading at all. And so I decided to bring it back, and it worked wonderfully. They read tens of thousands of pages, and the book talks were marvelous. I did them before school, during my lunch period, during my conference period, and after school. Any time that the student could come that I was free, they could come in for a book talk. Well, this year, at the beginning of the year, our setup was a little bit different, and I didn't think the kids were going to have as easy a time getting to my classroom to do the book talk, so I decided to do them in a digital manner, and we're doing them on NiceNet. The student, when they're finished with the book, sends me a message via NiceNet. I respond back to them, they respond back to me, and I respond back to them one more time, and they get their grade. Well, when I was thinking about it, because this is the best thing that I do, because kids actually do read, and they prove it to me. And I was thinking, well, it would work just perfectly with games. So my assessment is going to be called Game Talks. And what I'll do is, when a student has finished playing or is in the midst of playing a particular game I might have asked the class to play, or that they had found and asked if they could play it for class participation points, they would come, make an appointment, and come and talk to me, and we would talk about the game. Now, I try to have played as many of the games as my students as is humanly possible for me, with working and grading papers and going to school at the same time. But listening to the child describe to me what their experience was being in the game will be able to let me have a sense of whether they were really engaged in that game or not. And it'll be a perfectly safe place for the child to throw out ideas about the game, tell me what they didn't like about the game. If they thought that there was something, that they thought was lame about it, they could let me know that as well. And maybe somebody else might like it more. Maybe it's a game that I should just take off the list of games to be played. But I think that this will work really well for the kids as a way to experiment with lots of different games and get lots of different feedback, because I would then be an avenue of, promotion of different games. But also, more specifically for me, I'd be able to get input about games that I myself had produced and find ways from my students to fine-tune the games so that they were truly a game that were both challenging, intellectually stimulating, and fun all at the same time, which I think is the mission of every game that we're going to use in a classroom, to give the child some experience to kind of do their own thing to the best of their ability and get a grade for it. The way I actually grade for this is you get 100 if you've done the assignment and you can talk to me about what it is that you've done, or you get a 0 if you make no effort to do it. So it's pretty easy, 100 made your grade in my classroom. So that's my assessment idea, doing game talks.